And it's probably it is my favorite 90s Sentai. Just all around. The Charlie Brown Ranger aesthetic just does it for me, you know? What is the best season of our favorite shows? This is... Welcome back, goddamn! No, we're good.
Yeah! You did it while I was turned around. I'm on the show.
Welcome back to another episode of Versus. This matchup is another one of our quarterfinals. We just finished In Space versus Ninja Storm, with Ninja Storm coming out on top without any damage so far. Like, we voted for Ninja Storm now all five of us both times, and I have a feeling it's gonna go the distance. But today's episode, we are talking about Power Rangers Lost Galaxy versus Power Rangers SPD. What does SPD stand for in SPD?
Space Patrol Delta.
Oh yeah, it's in the intro. I'm so stupid. I kept thinking of Deca Ranger.
Special Police Deca Ranger.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, wait a minute. That's not what it is in America. Who wants to crack at this one?
All right, last time I said this is easy because it is. SPD is one of the best, if not the best, season of Power Rangers ever. Lost Galaxy is fine. Lost Galaxy to me is the season that said, let's get a little darker, let's get a little more mature with certain themes and try things out. SPD said, let's do everything right across the board. All right, you have one of the best teams. Even though they're a unit with the same costume, with the same uniform, but having just a little number difference changes everything. Makes a huge difference. Having the best Zordon character since Zordon, and him being a ranger a little bit later in one of the best costume designs ever. Then you have other kind of secondary, tertiary, I don't know, rangers in the background that are really cool and they're gone, but you remember them. You have Omega, you have Cat, you had the other Omega for like 2 seconds. Like just 2 seconds, but it was so badass. And it's seeing a future where you have all these cool aliens, all these different things, people just randomly have powers, like stuff like that is amazing. And then, as we mentioned last time with SPD, you have some of the best dynamic between Rangers ever, because they all come from different places and they come together. So I love that. Lost Galaxy is great. It has a lot of good things about it. Classic tear your shirt off in the desert, you know, a lot of great things about it, but it's no SPD in my opinion.
I'm taking notes.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that.
I love SPD. I really love SPD. But I feel like I'm gonna have to pull another Jungle Fury and Steelman Lost Galaxy here, because that show, dude, I don't know. I just don't know. Because Jungle Fury, no, not Jungle Fury. I'm all over the place now. Lost Galaxy has so many cool aspects to it in how it adapts the Sentai footage, considering how, like, Ginga Man, there's no concept of space. They're not in space. They're not flying off on Terra Venture. They're not doing this, that, and the third. Lost Galaxy takes that footage and it manipulates it into its entirely own different thing, and I really have to respect it for that. Whereas SPD, it's not a direct rip of Deca Ranger. It takes a lot of elements from there, and it does introduce some of its own stuff, but it's a lot. There's a lot more to compare there than there is with Lost Galaxy and Ginga Man. And I feel like Lost Galaxy, in terms of like that creativity and just like the fact that they turned a fantasy season to a sci-fi season, that has to count for something, man.
Absolutely, yeah, totally.
Yeah, I didn't even consider it that way, but that's a very good point.
Kind of taking the Sentai into it, I know a lot of people are like purists and they love just Rangers and they don't really like to look outside of that bubble, whether or not because, you know, like it interferes with how they perceive their seasons that they love. But I always think looking at the Sentai is super fun and super important, especially like early on, because you can see the footage, you know, you can see the drastic changes that they've done in like elements and stories and characters. Like obviously you had Jew Ranger, where you took a character literally named Boy and you turned him female for the American, you know, counterpart. Like it's super cool, I think, personally, to look at the Sentai, and I feel like you guys agree too, just to kind of see like what the difference is, how they kind of adapt that. Like SPD and Deca Ranger, like I watched Deca Ranger my first year of college, and I had only seen, you know, SPD when it was on air. And watching Deca Ranger, it kind of, you know, just felt like the exact same thing. And then watching Ginga Man, like that's a Sentai that I had watched Lost Galaxy and I loved Lost Galaxy, and then watching Gingaman, it was like I was watching a completely different Sentai using this, or like a show using the same suits, and it had almost nothing to do with one another, and I was able to love, like Gingaman, and it's probably it is my favorite 90s Sentai, just all around. The Charlie Brown Ranger aesthetic just does it for me,
Something to think about too, like when Allsafe was talking about how they packaged and took Gingaman and made it something sci-fi and made it into something sci-fi when it was not sci-fi. They also found ways to salvage stuff that they didn't use in other series, as not only as a way to sell toys, but as a way just to keep things moving. Perfect example. People forget there was a moment where Mike on Lost Galaxy used a Die Ranger morpher to turn into a Magna Defender.
Yeah.
And they sold the Die Ranger morpher as the Magna Defender morpher. And I was like, you slick bastards.
Yeah.
They can do it.
And they're like, they would find a way. They would find a way to constantly recycle stuff that they couldn't really use in other series to sell as toys. I know that doesn't have everything to do with the show per se, but it does at the same time, because a lot of times they're like, we could make another Titanus. How many extra Titanuses do we have left, y'all? 4,000? Okay, Titanus is going to be in this team, y'all. So let's prepare for a Titanus version. Okay. Break, you know what I mean? So they would do stuff like that. Because I remember seeing when Mike did it, he pulled the ring and then do all this, and I was like, I haven't watched Gingaman yet. I saw clips here and there. I'm like, no, they don't have that, and so it's like, no, that's not right. And so then you use the early internet and not in the late '90s, early 2000s, you use Die Ranger. Oh, okay, cool. That's very, very cool. So, but I think, I really feel that Allsace is right in the creativity with Lost Galaxy, because also, it's this thing of Saban still owned it. Fox Kids, which Saban had a high stake in, was also listen, you have to turn it up. In space save Power Rangers, the Power Rangers franchise as a whole. You've surprised everybody. Now you have to turn it up again. So what are you going to do to turn it up again? And
deeper into space.
Yes, go further.
Just get lost
from Earth. Go far away. Yeah, and that's the thing. SPD, if you really think about it, also it's on Earth, but it's way in the future, and you're dealing with this alien menace that's also from far, far away. But there's also with SPD, yes, it does follow Deca Ranger pretty tightly, but Disney spent that money on Doggy Kruger.
Yep.
Yeah.
They spent money on Doggy Kruger. Because I'm telling you something. You watch Deca Rangers, Deca Rangers, Doggy Kruger. I know his name isn't Doggy Kruger and Deca Ranger, but you watch that, and then you watch Doggy Kruger, and you're like, wait a minute, y'all spent more on that than they did over there.
And a furry legend was born.
Yeah, exactly. Like that right there proved that we came such a long way from the cloth dragon shield.
Oh yeah.
It proved that we came a long way from that. And so there were major upgrades there. And so I have to give SPD props for that. And also I enjoy all the characters from Lost Galaxy, but I enjoy the characters from SPD so much more. Yeah. Because Red Ranger went through a journey from episode 1 to at the end. He's like, you know what? I'm good, yo. I don't need this no more. I did my job. I'm going to go help the people. I don't need powers to help the people. Yo, Salty Blue Ranger, here you go. Become Red Ranger now. Stop being salty. We're friends. Peace. And, and let's same with the Yellow. Yellow was like, we just go help the people. We don't need powers to help the people. And I know we talked about that before, but I don't think people understand. Kids don't think about it. Kids would be like, "Whoa, what do you mean you're not going to be a Power Ranger anymore?"
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
And also, Blue learned in that moment. I remember the scene where Doggy says, if I made her the Pink Ranger, the Red Ranger, would you follow her? And he's like, absolutely, showing he knows he trusts everyone around him. We're all the best at what we're doing.
Especially because in the first episode, he asked him, if I made Sid the Red Ranger, would you be down with that? And he was like, he came up with a sexist ass answer. He was like, girl. And it's like, in that moment, in that final moment, it felt earned and it felt good.
Absolutely. But in defense of Lost Galaxy, I love the story, and to me, I think it was the first Power Rangers season to truly have a cohesive, tight version of arcs. You had the beginning arc of actually going to not going to Lost Galaxy, that's an arc of itself, but actually doing the show, doing your weird Starship Troopers beginning, finding this other planet, pulling the sword out of the stone, a Red Ranger who doesn't even know if he's worthy because he didn't get the sword in the first place. Great arc. Then you actually have the villains arc and Magna Defender's arc and actually going to Lost Galaxy. Then the ending. Like, I give it props for having really tight beginning, middle, and end stories, which is unique for like a episodic kid show, essentially, in the early 2000s.
Did we
also just saw the growth of like Shakina and everything, like Scorpius is the main villain, and then eventually she takes over, and you have that whole dynamic there because she just wants revenge. That's basically her main motivation.
Yeah,
and it's legitimate because she thinks the Rangers murdered her father when she's being lied to.
Yeah,
like stuff like that was really cool, and like you understood Magna Defender's motivation before by the time he died, you understood why he was pissed, why he didn't trust anyone, why he's changing and giving a life force to Mike to bring him back. Like all that stuff really worked well. But like you mentioned, each Ranger and SPD, you could see grew individually compared to Lost Galaxy, where it's like Green, he's still a mechanic. Like he's still the same guy. Maya didn't really change, even though her whole planet got frozen. When everyone got frozen, he's like, I'm cool again. Leo's the only one, and Kendrick's because she died. Like that's a big change. But Leo's the only one who, from beginning, middle, and end, had to grow up and become something different. And Mike in some ways too. Because Mike coming back, he had to change also, even though no one questioned where he's been for like 6 months. Like, don't you work here?
You're sleeping on the second Pink, dude. Her whole story of becoming Astronema and then the Pink Ranger. That's just another really sweet moment.
After that, what was her progression after that? She became Pink.
That's true. You got a point. That's the thing, is that SPD does have these characters who you can tell all learn something and all go through their own little thing, where like Lost Galaxy has a lot of forgettable characters, like green, blue, yellow. They're all kind of whatever. Pink would be forgettable if that whole storyline didn't happen, and that wasn't even planned necessarily. So it's just, I don't know.
The villains we talked about, like the villain Rangers we talked about in the previous episode with In Space versus Ninja Storm, and we haven't talked about A Squad even. Like that was such a great like moment watching that, because like I said, my stepdad and I watched the show, and that was like one of the first shows that we actually I really enjoyed, and I wanted to show him, and so we would watch it. And having seen stuff like the Psycho Rangers, and of course like Ninja Storm's Thunder Rangers, to get an A Squad, it's like, okay, yeah, I've seen this before. This will be fun. But he was just sitting there like, I thought they were dead. Taking shit up. But I feel like...
Well, I was going to use that against In Space, because I feel A Squad was done better than Psycho Rangers in a way.
Yeah.
Because it was so tightly used in 2 or 3 episodes?
Yeah.
Pink
Ranger
Ranger
solved it.
It was set up too.
Yeah, it was set up
very subtly set up.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if we even talked about the SPD being the B Rangers. Like they are not even the best of the best. Like Zordon literally says, "Find me the best teenagers," and the 2017 movie is literally about those who are worthy. Like the best of the best will come together to protect Angel Grove or wherever. Like Lost Galaxy, they pull the sword out of the stone. Like King Arthur, only King Arthur was worthy of doing that. Everybody else tried. Yeah. But with SPD, they are they're
the underdogs.
Yeah, and you just
they should not be Rangers. Yeah.
And you just want to cheer for them the whole time. And I feel like the only real problem I do have with SPD is Lost Galaxy coming after In Space, where everything's been continuous. I don't know how to say this. It's been continuous.
Continuified?
It's all been, of the same vein. We have the Rangers, they get the Zeo powers, they say, aliens. They get, big cars that they drive. They go to those space, and then everything is over. And then it's just like, but how about a story that takes place in another galaxy? Okay, cool, because this could happen alongside other things without it really interrupting the flow. And coming back like with Time Force is like, okay, this happens in another city. It's from the future. It doesn't impact anything that has happened or will happen. And once you get to SPD, it's like, this is the future Earth. And literally outside of just that season, I don't know, like as a kid, it's like you don't really care about that. But as like an adult now, I've always like thought of how does this work together. Actually, I said that backwards. As a kid, I'm always trying to figure out how this works together. Like, do you guys remember the Jackie Chan Adventure cartoon show?
Yeah.
Where they had like the medallions and they'd get the talismans and they get the power. I was always in my head like, this is connected to Rush Hour somehow, right? Where's Chris Tucker? Because the little girl, that's her, and Jackie Chan, obviously. This is Rush. Like, dumb little kid brain. Like you just want to connect dots that aren't there. And I feel like SPD was always trying to have me before the comics. Like, how does this fit in without realizing like, parallel universes, parallel dimensions, all this sort of stuff that can overlay with one another, which is kind of a cop out. I want to see somebody really illustrate how it's all connected and how it all works. But
green portals. That's how it works. Green portals.
My last word on these two. What would you rather watch? Space King Arthur's or Space ACAB?
Okay. Before you guys answer that, though, so I know what you're doing. Before you answer it, I also have a question. Which one had the better crossover? In space or with Dino Thunder? That's a question that I had to figure for myself. I don't know the answer.
Say in space.
Trick answer. I don't remember either of them.
Really?
SPD had two crossovers.
Yeah.
You don't remember when gets inside? I forget that classic line.
No one gets inside. No one gets inside.
Oh, I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. That
okay.
I want to drown out your good point of Space King Arthur because that is really cool. But
that is pretty cool.
Yeah, you made that sound so awesome.
But stuff like that, like when I compare the crossover, I recently watched, I did like a mini marathon of all the team up episodes, and the one for SPD is really good because it ends with the Dino Thunder Rangers finding out about their future and how SPD Blue went to the soccer camp of the Red Ranger. They all listened to the Yellow Ranger's music. Listen, I know. I'm not saying they're the best. It's their future stuff. All right. Tommy wasn't even in it because I guess he didn't want to. So see, I got you.
All right, are you guys ready to vote? Let's do this. Yeah. All right. Again, I feel like this is gonna upset somebody because I've just seen so much positivity for both seasons, and I've seen I know people who are like super Lost Galaxy or super SPD, and I feel like this
Lost Galaxy is great.
It's
I'm
great.
those people. I'm those people who are super Lost Galaxy and super in space, dude. SPD.
So 1 for Lost Galaxy, 2 for SPD. You guys ready? 3, 2, 1. Uh-oh, Josh is frozen. There it is. Okay. All right. So, okay. That is another unanimous. So SPD has gone, just like Ninja Storm now, has gotten full votes both times. So when we get to the semifinal of Ninja Storm versus SPD,
Oh my god.
Oh no. Oh no.
I have to find something bad about it. Jesus.
well, you guys, we have a week in between when we're filming these and when we get to those. I'm sure we'll try to figure out something to help sway it. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
As long as the nitpick doesn't solve the whole, Oh man, this is gonna be good. But SPD is our winner, so it'll be moving into the semi-final round to go against Ninja Storm. It's gonna be good. Anyway, our next episode that you guys probably shouldn't miss. Actually, you could probably miss this one. It's actually I don't know which ones. I don't actually know which way it's gonna go. I lied.
What are you talking about?
What is it?
Are we recording something? I have no idea why.
Are you telling me not to watch?
I'm just kidding. It is Power Rangers Wild Force versus Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Huh.
Yeah.
All right.
Interesting.
All right. I'm actually kind of interested to see what we're gonna say on it, but I feel like to me this might be a blowout again. But I didn't feel these last two were gonna be blowouts, but they kind of were. But who knows? Like Mighty Morphin surprised me when it got past the first round too.
Yeah,
It did.
I'm sorry. I keep apologizing, dude. I don't know what to say.
It's like as you're throwing up a number, like some of these you're so torn on, and that one, like you guys made a really good like case for Mighty Morphin, and I like, you know, like okay, this isn't a bad season. I just hate the nostalgia with it. But let's save it for next episode, and we will see you all then on Versus.